Alright, I have some updates here. Pulled this out of the way. It's really nice out today, so pulled this out of the way. Now that this is back on wheels again, I can roll it out. So I rolled it out for the first time since I got that thing. And I picked up these two Welders. A really good deal. I bought both of them for like $250. I was shopping around trying to decide which of the two brands I was interested in, as well as Miller, but basically I just wanted something that was a little more standard. Like, this actually has threaded fittings, and that thing has been working, but it's got a few things I'm not in love with. It still works and it does the job most of the time, but I've been wanting to try something a little more official to see if it's me or the machine, basically. And so this one's a Handler 135, and this one's a Weld Pack 180. People complain about the Home Depot ones because they're stepped, and apparently they're plastic and cheaper and yada yada, but you know what? It was $150 for this one and $100 for this one. So I figured I would just get both, figure out which one I like better, and then I can sell the other one. Or I might just keep them. Anyway, doesn't matter. Point is, so many things I want to do. Now, this car is back together, brakes are bled, new booster and master is on, so in theory the brakes are done, rolls, stops. The only thing left is finishing the harness to get the engine running. So I think if I were to put the harness the way it is onto the car, it's a matter of hooking up the power grounds and the fuel pump, and then it should start. And I haven't wrapped the harness, but in terms of the pinouts and everything, I think that's where it's at. And I'm almost tempted to try that today, because then I could drive the car back into the garage under its own power, which would be fun. It hasn't driven in 3 years. So that's very tempting. May or may not do that today. Depends on how it goes, I guess. But I am definitely eager to get back to working on this thing. The other reason I'm kind of pausing on that car is because I'm at the point where everything I'm doing is stuff with this planishing hammer. I made goofy custom dies to try to help me get the proper body lines in the quarter, but it's super loud, and these neighbors don't work on Friday, so they're home, everyone else is home, and we're going into the weekend where everyone's going to be home, and I don't want to do that to everybody, so I'm gonna take a pause and wait till the middle of the week to get back to all the noisy planishing hammer stuff. So that leaves me with a little bit of time to work on this. As you can see, I already made a die that put this body line back in, and then I was doing this one and realized I put the die backwards, so I was putting this radius here and putting the flat edge here. So I had to flip it around, and now I need to redo it, but also that air hammer is, I think, low on oil. It keeps not working. So point is, I got other non-Corolla stuff to do, and also stuff to do on my other non-coupe Corolla. So this episode might be a little bit of a break from the usual. And also, the guy I got the Welders from, super cool guy. Turns out he also plays guitar, and he has this twin reverb that needs repair. Said it was humming, which, just off of only that description, I'm going to say it's probably the capacitors are out. But anyway, he asked if I knew anyone who did repairs, and I said, well, yeah, I do. So he said, oh, take it home and fix it. So I might actually film some of that and see if anybody cares about it. Also, for the record, on the garage being messy, this is a mess, but it's a different mess from, no excuse for that, but different mess from the previous mess. I had this table completely cleaned off yesterday, and a new mess formed. In fact, this mess is just from moving my welding cart out. So, as messy as this place is, and it is messy, There is a bit of a rhyme and a reason and an organization in my head, and a lot of it's just moving things around because I have more stuff than space. But I do actually clean in here fairly regularly. You just can't tell because it usually gets messier than before I cleaned it after I clean it. Wasn't necessarily planning for this to be a comparison video or a review or anything like that, but I'm just taking notes to figure out which one I like better. And here's something to keep in mind. The Lincoln is a 180. It's got 240 volt and a 6-foot power cable. The Hobart, the 135, has a 120 volt cord and it's 18 feet long. Another thing to note is the Lincoln is way heavier than the Hobart. The Hobart, I would guess, is probably like 50 pounds, and this thing's probably like 80 pounds or something. This one does have a handle. There's no handle on the Hobart, but the Hobart is bigger. They're close, but the Hobart doesn't even fit on the cart. It's like bumping into these bolts and tucked at the back, and then the gas bottle doesn't fit. So between the two of these, this one is going to fit on this cart before that one will. So yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how I want to do this. The other thing is I have this plasma cutter, and I basically never use it. Not because it's not useful, but because it's always buried, and I have to hook it up to air and hook it up to power, and like that's kind of the other thing is that thing runs on 240, and so does my compressor, but also it needs the compressor. So like I have to like unplug it and plug the compressor in and charge the compressor back up if I'm doing very much cutting. Having a 110 welder allows me to run the air compressor and also weld and not have to switch back and forth. That plasma cutter, I think I can stick on the bottom shelf and it can live there. I was just using the bottom shelf as a scrap pile, but this seems like a better use. So I could have that live there. So this thing has the air fitting that comes out the back, and I even got rid of the quick disconnect and ran just a hose straight to it because I want to run a little hose off of it, and it still hits the back, so I'm just going to drill a hole so that it'll fit there without any frustrating problems. Okay, so I cut a little grommet. Or I should say I cut the hole to fit a grommet that I had and cut a slice in the grommet so the rubber hose has a place to go where it's not gonna get chewed through. So now this can live here, and the only downside is I did not use the quick disconnect, so if I ever need to move this off the cart, it's probably gonna be a pain in the butt. Well, I thought about using the quick disconnect, but just not a lot of room, so figured I'll just do straight, and this hose is plenty long to make my life easier. So I think for now, kind of got that popped through there. It's a little tight here and the rest fits fine, so that's actually going to work really great, and I can just do that. There's extra length here if it needs it, but yeah, I think that's gonna do just fine. Other machine, the Vivor that I've had, the only way I've been able to get it to cooperate with 22 gauge is by having the voltage down. It's not tapped like this, but having it down to like 12 or 13 volts. Don't ever go more than there, and then wire feed like up a lot. And if I get the wire feed too low, it just stacks up and it doesn't even penetrate. What's interesting here is this machine seems to do best with the wire speed low. Like all the way down worked fine, no matter what voltage setting I was at. And basically the more speed I got, the more it wasn't burning, which is kind of interesting. I kind of already forgot what this one was doing. It seemed like it was just a really slow speed where I couldn't seem to get it fast enough almost. And also the voltage seemed like it was either really low or I'm not really sure what, but this was like everything I could do to get it to actually penetrate 22 gauge. This seems to do just fine. Yeah, I don't know. It kind of seems like it only likes one setting. Or, like, I mean, it do a couple, but whether it was thick or thin, so like this spot where I went really close to the edge, not all the way to the edge, but close to the edge, and let it blow through, that was like the same setting where I was getting the best results on this stuff. And it seemed to do either one just fine. These things, where I've got basically this cold weld stacking up on top of the edge of a 22 gauge, is like, you know, the recommended settings. So I'm not sure. I don't know if this is like not how they normally are. These ones are just old and needed work. Could be. Or if I'm just so used to that weird Chinese inverter machine that I don't know what normal welders are like. I don't know. You know, I'm thinking it's just that I'm not at all used to how these machines operate. Because it does seem like they're capable. It's just that the settings are, like, not at all what I'm used to dealing with. So I've been playing around, and for what I'm used to, running it like that, like halfway up, for 22 gauge seems to be what feels normal to me, which is pretty wild. If I go down here, like all the way down, it barely welds, and if I get it about there, it also kind of barely welds. But what's impressive and actually really important to me is, I don't know how well you can see it, but these little ones on the end, I did with that barely working setting. But being able to weld the edge of 22 gauge, it's not attached to anything, and I'm just coming at it this way. I've never been able to do that before with the welders I've had, so that alone makes me very pleased. I recognize that basically everything I'm ever gonna do is probably not gonna generally run those low settings, but just knowing that I can run those low settings and accomplish stuff like that is a huge deal, because that'll allow me to get out of some sticky situations if they come up, or weld real thin stuff. And this is 030 wire. I think so far between these two, at first I liked the Hobart better, but now that I'm figuring this one out, I think I like this one better. I'm gonna switch it over to the 023 wire I have and see how it does with that. But what I found was this little thing I made with some 24 gauge. I think it's the only 24 gauge I have around. I was using this to try to learn TIG and just doing like the smallest amount of current I could and just trying to get it to weld without any filler, and it kind of worked, kind of didn't. I eventually got it, but most of my attempts were just blowing through. But check this out. That was with pretty good penetration. you know, tack stacking, not a solid bead. But I didn't stop and let it cool and do all that stuff. I just went about it on 2 and wire speed all the way down. And it actually did that really well. So I'm going to do another. Close enough. A little bit of a gap isn't a big deal because that's a pretty real world scenario. So we're at 2 on the voltage, surprisingly, and wire speed all the way down, which is like lower than 10. Or maybe the knob's messed up. No, it's still lower than 10. Okay, anyway. Yeah, okay. That's pretty nuts to me. I haven't had anything that could actually do that. It would just blow right through it on every other thing I've had. I'm actually really curious to try this. I'm only going to do half because I want to try the Lincoln now and see if it can do it. If I go down to 1, not only do I not burn through, but the weld's a little cold and doesn't want to burn through right, so... Oh, and there's a purge. Okay. Well, 2 seems to be the minimum that for, I mean, anything. Why would I ever need less than that? So, I'm gonna play with the wire speed, bring it up to 10. Do a different tack. Down all the way. Yeah, it seems to really like the low speed and the higher voltage. I'm curious, to bring this up to 3, bring that to 10, what does it do? That's actually the best one. I don't know what it looks like inside. Yeah, that's the best one, and it's 10 and 3, 24 gauge 3. So I don't know if my power is dropping really low. That might be, it's just not stable enough because of the way I've got it routed. And if it was in a normal outlet, 3 would maybe blow through it. That seems like probably what's going on. But I just need to know that in my garage, I just gotta keep the voltage up really high. I mean, it's not something I would generally want or need to do, but being able to run a consistent bead on 24 gauge, you know, that's, like I said, I've had welders that could do thick stuff. You know, maybe not perfectly, but, you know, that probably looks more confusing than it is, but there's like little beads in there, BB bearing pieces in there that I tacked top and bottom, so it looks like it's just filler, but it's not. Actually, you can see it a little better on that one. But why I was bringing it up is because it's penetrating well into that stuff. That's that Vevor welder. It wasn't even all the way up or anything. I'm just saying it can do that, but what it couldn't do was this. And so I'm actually quite pleased. Alright, so I'm using more or less the 24 gauge settings that they recommend for 023 wire. I just don't have any, so it's 030. But look at this. I mean, I'm not saying it's like the kind of weld you want, but to be able to write in, to be able to write on 24 gauge with 030 wire, not burn through, all the letters are solid beads. I'm very impressed. Now I want to simulate the problem I run into when I don't fit my panels very well. So that's the kind of gap we have. I don't know what size that really is, but it's about a 14 gauge gap equivalent. Maybe even an 1/8 inch gap. So at this speed, it definitely welds better, but it struggles more with the gap. Again, it's a really big gap for 24 gauge. So what I was trying to do was kind of come this way and hit this edge, and instead now I'm going to try starting on the edge closer to me and then trying to pull it across. See if that works. That works better. I'm just gonna fill it now. See, the thing is, I'm not used to having enough time to actually see what I'm doing. I'm usually working so quick that by the time my eyes adjust to everything that just happened, it's already over. This is very nice. Okay, so it's day 2 with having these welders, and the sun is out, it's shining, and I'm inspired to finally tackle some of my garage maintenance I've been needing to do. So as you can see, I cleaned up this area. I mean, there's still stuff, but now everything is kind of in relatively appropriate boxes, except for that stuff, but I haven't gone through all that. That's various Corolla parts for the 2 cars. Same up here. This is kind of spare car parts. Then I got specialty tools, a pile of power tools, body hammers, and then some more buried stuff that's harder to get to, but like gas can, big bearing puller, some specialty tools in there. And then I got like, this is all bolts that need to be cleaned and re-zinc plated. This has a few things on top, but it's actually a bunch of R134. And then this is all amp stuff. So speaking of amp stuff, I had to clear off my table because I'm going to work on that amp today, among other things. But this stool has been driving me crazy, where I'm trying to roll around and it keeps getting stuck. And I was noticing that these, see that? The angle on it is not really letting it spin. And so I was kind of checking it out, and I think it's just dirty. So I sprayed this one with brake clean, and it spins free. Same with this one. This one I did not spray with brake clean, but I did... Well, actually, no, I take it back. I sprayed them all with brake clean, except for this one. And then I'm just putting some moly grease in there to try to help keep it clean. It might just make it worse, I don't know. Anyway, so stuff like that. You know, these things are cheap. They're not great. The seat is not very comfortable. Hurts my butt to sit in it for very long, which when I'm doing amp stuff, I might be sitting in it for like 12 hours, and that starts to get really uncomfortable. So it's not the best seat in the world, and someday I'll get a better one, but I don't sit all that much unless I'm doing amp work, so it's kind of good enough for now, except for all the dirt in the bearings that are keeping it from moving the way it needs to. So anyway, there's one thing I've gotten done. Some cleaning. Some sprucing up to this cheap seat. You know that episode of Malcolm in the Middle where Hal's trying to fix the light bulb and one thing needs fixing and then the next thing and then the next thing, and at the end of it he's like pulling the engine out of their minivan, and then Lois is like, hey, there's a bulb out, and he's like, what do you think I'm doing? Anyway, that's kind of what this is turning into. I was like, oh, I'll use my tripod, and then I needed it to be taller, and then this was all sticky, and this is an old vintage tripod from my grandpa, and so like now I'm servicing this so that I can get to the other thing that I was going to try servicing, and it's one of those. Well, there's certainly nothing wrong with an older amp and letting it show its age and all of that, but I do find it personally very gratifying to get rid of a lot of the dust that collects in this Tolex. It's not a perfection thing, it's just like a few minutes of work, and I feel like if the amp could speak, it would take pride in being cleaned like this. I'm also very curious to see if this thing has been worked on much. It does have a little vibrato pedal jumper, which I'm a big fan of, but those are kind of a custom piece that you make, or a tech makes, or whatever. It has ruby tubes in it, so someone has changed the tubes out at least. It's not original power tubes. But the rest of it looks pretty unmessed with. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's pretty unmessed with inside. Probably had the original capacitors, which is no surprise that they're no good. Type where you don't have a nut on the bottom, which is nice. Get a look at the capacitors that I'm guessing are the issue. And also, while we're at it, we have some date codes we can check out, and also a sticker covering this one. But it had been a minute since I had looked up how the date codes work, and this makes a lot more sense in terms of the years I was guessing. 606 is Schumacher, and then 702, I was thinking it's 70 in second week, but I got that backwards. It's either 67 or 77, and then second week, 02. So 7 represents the last digit of the year, and then the next 2 digits are the week. And just based on it being a master volume, that is 77. 77 10th week, 77 20th week, and I can't quite make this one out yet. But yeah, it's a 77 roughly, which makes a lot more sense. Yeah, that's basically exactly what I would have expected. I would have been pretty shocked if it was a 70 because so there's one mismatched screw, so somebody has either done caps in the past or at least replaced a screw for some reason and maybe checked the caps, I don't know. But that is one clue that it has had caps, at least the screw for the doghouse, replaced. Maybe it rattled off. Maybe they did a cap job. We're about to find out. The original ones are these brown paper ones, and then anything that isn't a brown paper one is not an original one. Well, one original brown paper Mallory, and then 4 replaced ones. So I used a little plastic scraper to kind of scrape off that tape, and I've got a little bit of glue gun kind of soaking on here. I was able to see already that it's 606, again Schumacher, and then 703, so 77 third week. So yeah, this looks like mid to late 77 is when it was made, just based on the newest transformer being 20th week. Alright, I put it back in the box. It's not bolted in, but just to hold it in place where I can actually access everything and turn it on, all that stuff. So let's see what it does. That's the vibrato. Which the reverb has a little hum, not a lot, but more significantly it's really weak. It seems we've got a few different things going on. We seem to have DC on the pots, which is why they're popping when you spin them. Sometimes that's dirt, but this kind of sounds like failing bypass capacitors for stage to stage. Next issue is the reverb is almost non-existent. And then we have some popping in the vibrato circuit. Okay, so I've taken voltages on everything, and also went through and looked for leaky coupling capacitors. And there's that one there, leaking a few volts, like 5 volts or so, and that's leaking over into other things. So this one needs to go, but the rest are good. Okay, I've got this little orange drop here. It's just about the right size, same value. I even at one point went through and banded it, figured out which side is the banded side. So we'll go ahead and use this one. Once we get it in, we do want to verify that it's good and not also leaking DC, but and I have drained all the voltage out, it's unplugged, all that good stuff. Interestingly, there is a little hot spot there. I don't know if that's from the factory or from a previous repair. Didn't look like any of these parts had ever been changed out, so I would guess a factory bump. Okay, I think that's good. So check this out. I've heard of this, haven't really checked it out myself, but these fiber boards can get, I don't even totally understand how, but they can become conductive. So 23 volts. And very microphonic. Chassis isn't microphonic. I switched the tubes around, and I mean, it's a little microphonic, but it's not that microphonic. But the board is, which is pretty wild. So microphonic, and also and do a little digging, see what people have come up with for fixes on that. I know there's like a wax coating on these boards that kind of heats up when you solder stuff, but I'm not sure what the best procedure is for actually getting rid of that voltage that floats on there. Okay, so unfortunately my camera died while I was doing this, which is a little bit of a bummer, but so to recap, this had a really extreme tremolo tick, like really bad. I did the 22 nano from the 10 meg and Roach node to ground. That helped a lot, but did not get rid of it. I pulled the underneath backer board out, and I cleaned it all with Goo Gone and Scotch-Brite, and got all the wax I could off. It's impregnated with wax, so you can't get it all, but I got the top layer out. I used brake clean to dry it, and then I did all that out in the sun. Put that in. That helped tremendously with the voltage on the board itself. I've already heat gunned the top of the board and washed with alcohol, and that didn't really do much, and I still had like 50 volts on the board in some places, 30 to 50, which is insane. When you look online, people say, oh, my board's conductive, I've got 50 millivolts, or I've got 5 volts on the board. I still have 5 volts on the board. But anyway, cleaning the backer board did a huge amount. The only issue is to do the top board that thoroughly, I basically have to unbuild the whole amp and then rebuild the whole amp, which, I mean, I can do that, but it just takes time. So doing it for a customer is pretty extreme. What I did do is use Goo Gone and like a cotton swab and this thing with some paper towel, and I just tried to clean the board the best I could in the area that's actually around the tremolo, because this little black piece is what actually ticks. So anyway, I did all of that, and it got a lot better, but it didn't really go away. And the only thing that would actually make it go away was putting my probe on this node. So then I was looking into that, and what I did is I kind of mimicked the same kind of load. I tried this 33 megohm resistor to ground, and by itself, it just shut the tremolo off completely. So then I added this, I think it's a 10 picofarad. I'm actually not even sure. It's just the smallest one I had. It's either 10 or 100 picofarad. And I added that in parallel with this resistor, And that is the first thing that has truly worked. I'm sure the rest of this helped a lot. I don't know if that would have worked by itself. But I got to the point where I tried regrounding the whole tremolo circuit. I tried every single thing I've read, seen. I did stuff that I basically, like, I removed these bypass capacitors to lower the gain. And while it technically made the tick go away, it made the tick go away because it just stopped oscillating. I replaced all of these, tried that, didn't make a difference. I've rerouted all these wires. I've chopsticked so much that it broke the connection on a few of the wires, and I had to re-trim and solder them and attach them. Anyway, bonkers. I reflowed the vast majority of the solder joints on the board and left the heat in there a bit to try to dry out any moisture around the actual eyelets. I went and did all the high voltage points and a bunch of other ones as well. So I have the 22, and then also in parallel with that I have the 33 megohm and like a 10 pico, all going from that 10 meg roach node to the tremolo ground. This is the only time, like the only thing that's made it quiet. I have the intensity all the way up, and I have the speed kind of in the middle where it seemed to be the loudest. It comes back kind of a little bit when you mess with the intensity. It's not actually a problem, but it'll like show up a little bit when you're sweeping the pot. But really not that bad. I suspect the only other thing we could do is disassemble the whole board and either replace it completely, which is probably the easier option, or at least just absolutely clean the board, try to dry it out, maybe put it in the oven and try to get all the moisture out of the wax. Like, if you really needed to, I'm sure you could take it that far, but I think this will suffice. And this is with the master at 10. If you turn the master down, it went away even when the tick was really bad. But the guitar plugged in, plenty of volume, volume's at 5. Let's put everything at 5 except for the master. Well, reverb's not hooked up, but bright switch on. I'm not saying that's how the setting people would choose, but that's enough to rattle my garage, and I don't hear the tick. So I think this is about as far as we can go with this without like quadrupling the amount of work we're going to do. I mean, I'm not going to charge for this, but I mean, I probably put 8 hours into this yesterday trying to find something that would get that tick to go away. So definitely reverb's working fine. We are getting a little bit of that tick kind of coming and going. Certainly not like it was or anything, but seems at this point it's probably a lead dress thing, which is only complicated because this thing rattles so much that, how do you guarantee that things won't move around a little bit? does sound good. I'm just not 100% satisfied with that ticking. Red goes to the input. I did notice, not sure if they changed things or what the deal is, but with the other tank I tried, I had to switch them around to get the thing to work good. So then I thought, maybe they're just backwards, and then yeah, it worked. So that was kind of weird. Okay, so a little update on this amp. I went ahead and did the filter caps. I had ones in stock that would work, so I went ahead and did them. I got the tremolo tick pretty much dealt with, and the thing I'm having issues with now is just still the conductivity of the board. But I'll show you what I've been doing. Gone. Let that soak for a bit, then use isopropyl alcohol to clean it up. Then I take the heat gun and I evaporate out the alcohol. Then I reheat the solder joints and let it sit a second and try to burn up any moisture that's still close by and reflow the joint. And that has been giving me the best success, where I go from 30 volts like right here between two components to nothing. I get some of this goo gone on a paper towel, get it on the toothbrush, work it in there. Hoping we can just get it all good to go. All right, so now I'm gonna take this isopropyl, 91% is the strongest stuff I could get. It does technically have a little water in it, but and then do the same thing, work that into everywhere, try to get the isopropyl to mix with the goo gone, which also is now mixed with the wax, try to get all of it kind of turned into one slurry of quickly evaporating stuff. I'm gonna take this relatively gentle battery operated heat gun and just heat it up so that it evaporates all the alcohol out, and hopefully takes the water and wax with it for the most part. At least the water with it. So then with this is a wire that goes to the grid. So it's a signal wire that's extra sensitive. I'm just heating this eyelet up so that any moisture still kind of in contact with the eyelet can basically burn and evaporate off. And you don't want to get everything too hot, so you kind of got to be careful with it, but I don't know if you can see it. Probably not, but there's not a lot of like wetting happening around the eyelet, but an area over here that's not treated, if you heat up these eyelets, the whole, like within a 1/4 inch of the eyelet will just turn into a puddle of wax. So that's a good indicator that we've made progress. And then kind of between each section I'm doing, turning the amp back on and just seeing if anything's getting better. If we get to the point where it's just dead quiet, then I don't need to keep working. So good to check, and also to check that we're not still getting voltage on the board. And let's see if I can show it where you can actually see the voltages I'm talking about. Yeah, see, even right now, the hum is quiet enough in that speaker that's facing the wall. It's there, but I don't know if you can hear it on the camera. Okay, so as an example, this area was really bad. And we have nothing on the board here. And if you touch the high voltage spot, you get that little click. That was happening over here. Like doing this, you could hear through the speaker. Let's see if it still does it over here at all. I don't know if you can see that, but we got 10 volts between these two resistors here. They're still pretty quiet. This one's a little louder. Listen. See how, okay, here's two different plates. Granted, this plate is then amplified by this plate, so this one will be louder, but that's a really mild tap. That one's more extreme. We got 21 volts at one spot. Yeah, like 20 volts next to this node that goes to the plate resistors from the capacitor, the filter capacitors. Over here, it's down to like 12 volts, but it's still a lot. Now over here, which was like 30 to 50 volts, finally at 0 on that side. We're 0 there. I just bumped a node. Yeah, 0, 0, 0. So that is finally good. What about over here? Got 1 volt right here. 2. 20 over here where I haven't treated. And then over here, that's 0. Got 2. It went away. That's where the vibrato was ticking. And this also had like 15 volts on it earlier. None of that's microphonic anymore. So, I mean, this hum is negligible at this point. The ticking is gone, all that good stuff. And there's a little bit of microphonics on the board still over in the areas I haven't touched yet or haven't cleaned. But as a general, this process of cleaning the board off specifically in any of the high voltage spots as well as the high sensitivity grid spots, that's been the major one. So like this wire is still a little microphonic, but there's no voltage around it. And what was happening was right here, you got 230 volts, and then like a quarter inch away from it, you have this grid node where you've got signal. And then there was a bunch of voltage between them, which is not only messing with the bias of the tube, but it's also inducing hum into the preamp tube. So yeah, huge difference. Still have a little microphonics, but nothing like before, and we're not getting a conductive board over there, so I'm happy with that. This is my first time dealing with this. I mean, I have encountered a very mildly conductive board, but not enough to bother with something like this. And it was like an amp I owned where I didn't really care. But kind of par for the course on this particular amp. Everything I'm finding online of like the common fixes kind of help, but really aren't enough to actually make this thing do what it should. And I'm kind of just having to figure out and solve the problems myself, which is why I wanted to share it. Okay, so here's where we're at with this amp. I, like 4 hours later, I've basically cleaned almost all the wax off the whole main board there. There's a few spots that still have some voltage on the board, but they're in places that I've done like 3 passes on and they're not going away, and they're over in the power amp section. But the amp's on right now. It's making almost no noise at all. This is miles ahead of how I received it. Okay, I was just going through my harness and I was really confused because my B plus stuff wasn't adding up, and I figured out that, so I had the ECU B plus connected to the diagnostic B plus, which I think was also connected to the B plus going to the firewall, and then all the other sensor B pluses were connected together but not connected to those. Anyway, so I had to run a jumper wire over to another set of Ys, steal the one that was going to the diagnostic plug, put it in here. Anyway, now I think it should all be the way it should be. All right, I've got the harness set into place. A lot of temporary stuff going on. I haven't hooked up any of the sensors to the cluster or anything like that. I just have B plus coming out of the center firewall plug as well as the start wire, and I've got my ground here. It was the map sensor, not the TPS, but the map sensor is just kind of temporarily jumpered in place. I just want to get everything functional, know that it works, then I can finalize things. Try again. Technical level, it did run. Sounds like it's only running on a couple cylinders though, which wouldn't be that surprising because there's a lot of nonsense in the ignition system conversion stuff going on. So let's do a couple things here. Let's get a timing light. So really bright out, so it might be really hard to see the timing light go off, but let's see if it'll run and if we can see anything. Too many things working against me here. Bad grounds. Probably bad ignition timing. Battery. Oh, I don't think that's much of a problem. B group. Okay, so here's what I've got. Ran this cable to the battery, and then I've got these to that thing on the battery. Definitely not how I would love it to be for very long, but it'll do. I noticed it earlier, like a few months ago, and now I'm noticing it again. This seems to be leaking fuel a little bit. Like, I don't know if this filter is no good, even though it's brand new, but it seems like maybe it's not sealing properly, and that might also have something to do with our fuel pressure. I just can't remember what fuel pressure these are supposed to run. It does build fuel pressure. Just, I remember thinking that it should be more than it is, but it does have a regulator, so it's gonna release at whatever it thinks is right. So anyway, I'm gonna try one more time. I don't know if these better battery connections are gonna help it actually start, but helped. Oh yeah. Fuel pump. I don't want to hardwire it because I want to be able to shut it off. I just also keep forgetting to turn it back on. So, of course, it's not starting when there's no more fuel. Okay. And this way. Seems worse. Maybe I can see. Really hard to do though. Well, at the very least, I can see that we are getting spark from that one. Try this one. Spark there. Just double check that fuel leak isn't tremendous. Yeah, it's like weeping a little, not dripping even. 4 is working, or I mean 3 is working. And 4 is working. So we have spark happening. So I think it's just a timing thing. Now I'm gonna take this fuel pump wire off and forget that I did that. So I'm gonna try flipping the distributor around. Mostly because I don't know what else to do. Because I don't have any more range on the distributor adjustment. And where it is, man, it did run. It just ran bad. I know the computer can adjust the timing, so it might have just been trying really hard to adjust when it's like totally out. But I think at this point, just flip it around, see if that's enough to run it.
How's the new filter?
It's different part number, and it doesn't leak.
Fuck yeah.
Also, I had to take the cap off because I couldn't actually get it into the right spot. Go up from the back. Okay, that's better. So I did actually get it to run for a second, but it sounded like it was running on 1 cylinder maybe, or like I don't know how many, but not the correct amount.
Well, how long were you trying to start it earlier? You think you got some extra fuel in there?
No, because I also like spaced and was trying to start it without the fuel pump hooked up.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So I'm just going to try flipping the distributor around because I know the computer can try to compensate. So I'm thinking if you're 180 off, the computer probably compensates like 90 degrees. Because if I turned it all the way in one direction, it would almost kind of start, and the other direction it wouldn't even try.
Okay, yeah.
So I think it's just out, but now I have no idea where it is because same problem. So this may be it, or it may be like exactly where it just was. But using my timing light, I appear to be getting spark out of every cylinder. So it should theoretically work. Still recording.
Typically these help.
Huh?
Typically these help with getting the car ready.
Yeah. They also help like do everything wrong.
Well, it's only one, you know.
Yeah. I also made better battery cable connections, and that's helping a lot.
There it is.
Okay, so like it's close. So if I go, I don't have a bolt in, so
Yeah.
let me get that bolt in, otherwise I'll be way off and not do it. I also can't reach and move it around now that the cap's off. Well, I mean, I guess I can, but So that's, if it's in the same spot it was before, that's where it was wanting to start. Sounds too advanced.
If it was
I don't
90,
know.
then yeah, then you would pull it, trim it back from where it
And
was
I don't know
wanting to start
which
before.
direction.
Well, what we can do, I can be your real-time timing. So I'll start all the way one way and then crank. Just let her crank.
Well, I just tried both sides.
All the way max?
Yeah,
Okay, so
try
right
the
in
middle
between.
there. Yeah. Put your fingers.
Yep.
It's acting like the idle air control isn't opening. I mean, it's acting like a few things, but...
It's acting like a bitch.
You know what I think this thing needs? I think it needs a vacuum leak.
Yeah.
It happens to me every now and then where, like, I get a weird thing in here, but it
Oh,
feels
yeah.
like an electric shock.
Oh, yep.
You know,
I know
this
the
freaks
exact
me out.
feeling.
Shouldn't need that in theory, now with this.
That open, yeah.
Yeah. I can't see the time bar. It should be one in theory, but... Oh, there it is. Yeah, we're like super, super advanced, like 50 degrees. Like it's right here in the middle. Other way? That way. Yeah. Or that way, I guess. And from there, I think the ECU is going to have to do it. Doesn't sound like it's running on all cylinders. Got a little tiny, little bit of like a fuel leak,
Yeah.
and also my fuel pressure is really low.
Well,
I think it used to run like 30 or 40 pounds.
you also have a tiny ass little connection to supplier fuel pump horsepower.
I mean, it's pretty big.
Well, I'm done.
It's a 14 gauge wire straight to the
Wait.
pump.
Wait, which one is yeah. Well, I just mean the fact that it's like not like on a crimp or anything, so
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but I mean, but this this thing seems to be,
opening up.
yeah, doing its thing. So like, I don't know if it's just regulating it at the wrong pressure or if it's that thing keeping it from building enough.
Well, fucking motor runs. That's a good sign.
Yeah, kinda.
Hasn't fucking ever done that.
I also don't know. I don't know if I have the fuel return on the correct line or not. Did I tell you about that puddle on the floor?
No.
Dude, I was like, thankfully I was out here welding, but the car was just parked in here as it always is, and it was a hot day like this, and I think the sun might have been like right there. And like I came into the garage and there was like a gallon of fuel all over the floor, and I was like, what the heck? And it was like bubbling out of the open line, and I like took the gas cap off and it stopped.
Oh shit.
So I think I maybe plumbed the return to the vent.
Yeah.
And so then the vent was going through the return, which is probably submerged.
Yeah.
That's my only theory,
yeah.
like, that makes any sense. So I'm not sure which of those it's supposed to be. But, like, I turned it off, and we still have, like, 10 PSI, assuming this is accurate. But normally they hold at, like, 30 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Alright, so I got the thing running, taken it for a spin around the block a couple times. Got the timing dialed in. I was not sure if I had the distributor in right, and it only goes in one way, so we're good there. The issue I'm having right now is I'm having low fuel pressure. It's like 20 psi. It should be like 28 or so. So I was looking into that and looking into what can cause that and stuff. And one thing that came up is if you have a leaky injector, it can both. So, okay, low fuel pressure, but I'm also running really rich. Anyway, so it was saying if you have a leaky injector, it'll leak, dumping extra fuel and also lower your pressure. So I'm going to unplug all the injectors, turn the fuel pump on, and see if it'll probably start a couple times because it still had some pressure, I think. But basically we're just going to see if it keeps trying to run, then we know something's leaking. Yeah, it doesn't seem like it. Yeah, not even a hint. So I'm gonna say that probably the injectors are not leaking. Yeah, we're still at like 20 psi, 18 psi. It's a little hard to read 'cause it's right where the fluid line is, but yeah, our pressure is low. And see, when I unplug the pump, it drops even further. So could be a clogged fuel filter. This is old gas that's been sitting in the tank for 3 years, and could just be that the fuel filter clogged very quickly and yeah, isn't doing well. So I took the vacuum line and I hooked it up to my air compressor, which I mean is at like 20 psi. It's nothing crazy, but I just gave it a tiny little boop and got the fuel pressure up to like 30, 40, but it kind of runs the same. So yeah, it is kind of acting like maybe a leaky injector, except when I unplug them, it doesn't want to fire at all. So kind of weird. This and the camera together. This is cylinder 1 for this 20 valve. $210. Sweet. Let's see what cylinder 2's like. Okay, cylinder 2, which is one of the ones that's having an issue and not firing. I actually pulled the spark plug wires, and 2 and 3 aren't even firing, but we absolutely have compression. Good compression, 210. So far, seems even weirder that none of this is working. It's still acting like there's a fuel pressure leak. At first I thought it was that the injectors were leaking. Maybe they are, but now that I realize that these aren't even firing, I thought they were just running off of the leaky fuel. But okay, here's 3, our other problem cylinder. $210. And here's cylinder 4. So cylinder 4 looks to have a little low compression. But that is one of the ones that's actually running. But yeah, that one's low, so I don't know if that's a head gasket thing or a rings thing or maybe a stuck valve or something, but that's something to note. Alright, I pulled the plugs out when I did the compression test, of course, and I'm pretty sure they're the original plugs. Not just from Japan, but probably from the dealership. This is one of the cylinders that was actually running, and the gap isn't wrong, but they're pretty rough looking. And then the ones that weren't running, 2 and 3, not sure which of these boxes it is, but yeah, 2 and 3 are all fouled out. So I had some other plugs that are also 20 valve plugs, probably out of the other motor, that had miles on them, but still gapped okay, and they're dry. So I'm gonna put those in. I think what I'm gonna try to do here is I'm gonna leave these 2 and 3 unplugged, and I'm gonna plug all the spark plug wires in. I'm gonna run it for a minute and then pull 2 and 3 out and see if they're wet, which would tell us that there is in fact a leak going on. And out of curiosity, well, no, I don't want to do that. Also, for what it's worth, that's what I would imagine running on 2 cylinders sounds like. So it's confusing when it sounds like it's running on 4 and then you pull spark plug wires out and it just seems to still run. That doesn't make sense. So that seems dry. No change. They're both in. No change. Oh. Clear enough. Unplug them. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's running like that with 2 injectors unplugged. And if I pull the spark plug boot, no change. Get an arc there. Messed up one, but still, no change. So what the heck's going on? Runs pretty good for 2 cylinders, though. It's just annoying. I don't want it to run on 2 cylinders. I want it to run on 4 cylinders. But I will say, even on 2 cylinders, the thing is way smoother and faster than that car. So, for any of you going, oh, don't put a 20 valve in that car, leave it a 4AC, it's more original, it's cooler, it's weirder. Well, it is. It's also a lot slower. Yeah, I don't see any signs of fouling yet. Maybe I'm having, like, I don't know, the opposite problem, where it's actually dead injectors. I did put a test light on the injector harness, and they are blinking. The light's blinking, so I suppose it could be like the injectors themselves are bad, maybe. But I don't know. None of this is really making a lot of sense to me.
Alright, honestly, that's kind of a good hack to see if you're running on all cylinders. Just drop a dot of oil on each runner.
Yeah. So it was just crossed my mind, and then I didn't follow through with the thought, but because this cap is on the front of the motor, it's actually spinning the opposite way, so it's still hitting top and the bottom, but the 90-degree phase was switched, so I had to switch the second and third spark plug wires, and now it runs on all four. Still has low fuel pressure, but it's running a lot better.
And if you disconnect that, got way better fuel pressure.
Okay, let's do the
Yeah, you're at like 30 psi.
That's better.
Yeah, hell yeah.
A little smoky. Little sooty. Didn't taste like fuel, but
Well, there's also probably like a lot of water buildup from this cold metal sitting, weather changing and everything inside of there.
yeah.
It doesn't smell like fuel soaked or anything. Everything sounds more in order. Drop a tap of ATF into the cylinder, run it again. If your compression bumps off that, it's a ring issue. But if it doesn't, you might just have like a valve not seating perfectly or something like that, which is not that big of a deal, or even a valve stem seal.
Yeah.
Or get some compression loss through. Working on a top end versus rebuilding a bottom end, much preferable.
Yeah.
At least my way.
Yeah, agreed.
Fucking triple pack.
That's okay. I'm gonna hook that back up.
I wanted to, but
All right. So as a recap, because I can't remember what I did and didn't say earlier, and lots happened. Bottom line is 2 and 3 need to get flipped when you put the cap on the other side because it's spinning the other way. And I kind of thought about it, but I figured all of them would be wrong, but it's just the 2. Anyway, so now it runs great. Starts up fine, generally speaking. I still have a weird kind of funky fuel pressure thing going on, where it's a little low on fuel pressure, but I'll figure that out some other time. Not too worried about it at the moment. Bottom line is the thing rips. I took it down the road a little bit where that little parking ride is, and yeah, thing rips. I like broke loose getting into second on the thing, so it's definitely gratifying in how I wanted it to be. So I think for now, I'm just gonna probably leave it as is for a bit so that I can get it in and out of the garage easily to get work done on that and have room in here. And also, like, I need to pull this harness back out and wrap it and finalize it. And maybe I'll do that sooner than later, but now that it moves, I can, well, when I'm done with that car, things like the doors and the fenders and stuff, I can bring in here and body work them and actually have room to do all the work and body work in here, and then just pull this in and out at night. So, huge success. I'm really glad I decided to get back to work on that harness. The funny thing is, this is exactly where I left off when I found that car. So when I got that car, it was very exciting, but also I was like, if I had just not gotten that car, I probably instead would have gotten this thing running like the day that I got that car. So it's kind of funny how that works, but no regrets because now I have that car. Okay, I think I failed to film the last couple things. Sometimes this camera switches into like photo mode, which drives me crazy. Why would you ever use that? But anyway, let's see how this cold starts. It's been sitting overnight. I'm gonna run the fuel pump, and I'm still having a low fuel pressure issue. Has fuel pressure, just not as much as it should. So it runs a lot better with more, but should still start. And then, and I mean, it's factory computer and everything, so. Still acts like the timing's really far advanced. Yeah, really acting like that. So we gotta figure that out. Very unhappy belt. Yeah, definitely would run a lot better if the fuel pressure issue was figured out. I think I have a little water leak. Yeah, right here. This just needs to be adjusted and tightened. And then I know this little barb that I basically pinched leaks a little, so I actually need to braze it or weld it, and then also I need to learn how to braze. I think this needs to be tightened a little, as you can hear every time I start it up. But not too bad. Right now I just have water in it, and I got my old radiator in because I wanted to see what kind of condition the block, like if the block was all rusty. And it's a little low now, but from what I could see, it really actually looked pretty clean in there. Didn't look too bad. So at some point I will pull this back out, fix that little issue, put the new radiator in, and also I gotta get the harness finished up.